There's a really good Souls-like that's been completely overshadowed by the release of the first Berserker, Khazan. Why they decided to release their game on the exact same day as a game funded by Nexon is beyond me, but nevertheless, it was an incredibly enjoyable experience for me, and I want to share it. This is AI Limit. It's far from perfect, and the scope of the game is much more narrow than Khazan, but it does several things very well. Most importantly, I think they nailed the combat. It doesn't revolutionize the genre, but it's very clean and satisfying, with boss fights that feel fair but challenging. The rest of the game's elements are a little bit of a mixed bag, ranging from serviceable to good, but nothing overtly bad. Overall, I think the full package is a fun game. AI Limit is a mostly linear experience to its benefit. One very valid criticism is that the environmental design is lacking a lot. You start in a cold, dark sewer, and honestly, the environments don't get a lot prettier, so if you like looking at nice landscapes, this one won't do it for you. However, I want to stress that this does not take away from the level design. I think the level design is pretty damn good for a Souls-like, especially for this young studio's first game ever. While it is linear, there are a bunch of nooks and crannies that make exploring each area very rewarding. I found myself backtracking a lot to find all the hidden areas, and I was always glad that I went back and explored fully. Combat is where the game shines for me. You start pretty bare bones, but you'll slowly start finding upgrades to use spells and different frame abilities. Frame abilities are your defensive options, and there are 4 to switch between at any given moment. You have a shield, your counter field, which is your parry, thunder step, which is a quick step that can damage enemies with a perfect dodge, and a buff that increases your damage at the expense of health. Instead of a stamina bar, the game introduces the sync rate meter. Using your abilities and taking damage decreases your sync, and if it gets to 0, you will be stunned. At first, I didn't think I'd like this system, but I actually found it to be very forgiving, and it really encourages you to use your full kit in battle, including weapon abilities and spells. Without the need to manage a stamina bar, it allows you to dodge safely almost any time, even when the boss is overwhelming you with a long combo. I leaned into a parry-heavy playstyle, and it was so satisfying for me. Feels a little bit like Stellar Blade at times with less butts, but that's also less distraction so I can focus on the boss moves. Bosses were not overly challenging to me, but after so many Souls-likes, it's becoming difficult for me to gauge how difficult this game will be for a casual Souls fan. I think it gives you all the tools you need to succeed and then some. Merchants are readily available and upgrades are plentiful. The game wants you to experiment and even gives you free respecs after a certain point in the game. The narrative and quest delivery will be familiar to Souls fans, but I actually found it really easy to keep up with all the quest lines. I managed to get them all done without strictly following a guide. However, I did reference some guides to make sure that I didn't miss anything near the end. Overall, I found the story interesting enough to follow, but nothing groundbreaking. A full playthrough took me 25 hours. I think you can add or subtract about 5 hours from that, depending on how good you are at Souls-likes and how much you care to explore. Replayability would be up to how much you enjoy the gameplay, but since it is rather linear, you can experience most of what the game has to offer in one playthrough. There's a ton of cosmetics and weapons to collect, and I got almost all of them aside from some boss weapons. I had planned to play Khazan when it released, and I was considering passing on AI Limit, but I wasn't able to secure a review code to Khazan, and I was given one for this game, so it worked out. In hindsight, I'm really glad that it gave me a chance to play this instead. Releasing the game on the same day was a really questionable decision. It's kind of like opening up a coffee shop right next to Starbucks. It could help business, or it's dead on arrival. I've played the demo for Khazan extensively, and I plan to play it next. I'm anxious to see how the games compare. Khazan has much broader appeal, but I don't expect it to be a vastly greater experience. AI Limit does a lot of things well, and ultimately justifies its $35 price tag. I'm excited to see if the developers, SenseGames, can capitalize on a good first game and develop something even better in the future. It never hurts to have another competent dev in the Souls-like genre, and I think they're off to a hot start.